Hey, what's up, Bob? Thanks for coming in. I need to well, I'm gonna be quick about this. I'm gonna nerf you.
Nerf me? What the heck did I do?
Well, I looked at the comments and some of them are saying that you're not funny and that you're obnoxious.
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just trying to keep you from being such a failure.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're not going away. Like I said, you're just gonna get kind of nerfed a bit. So don't worry, you'll still be around, all right? Don't do that. Let's start the show. Hey, it's Soul. It's October 6, 2017. This is Warcraft Weekly, and it's good to have you. Welcome back. I hope you had a good week because someone's gonna have a good week. I'm here to announce our contest winner from last week's giveaway. Jodiesattva is our winner, and he had a pretty simple story saying that, hey, we got 2-9 Mythic this week. Yay! That actually puts us securely at 3rd place on our backwoods US server. Our tiny little RP server is still all alone and unconnected. Aww. Well, I hope this puts a little yay into your week, Jody. You're going to be winning a WoW token, so come contact me through like Battle.net or whatever, and then I'll give you gold somehow, some way. Thanks to everyone who commented. I read each and every one, even the ones that kind of pissed off Bob. Oh well. But I always want to encourage all you to leave a comment and just let me know how your week was. I know that some folks, such as myself, sometimes feel cut off from the rest of the world, so if you want to at least reach out and make yourself feel a little bit heard, hey, feel free. I'd love to read. And some of you did have some pretty amazing things to talk about. I know this is another potentially useless plug, but if you want to take some of your little things that had happened this week or at any time in your World of Warcraft career and flesh them out into a cool epic story, I'd be happy to read them for you in my Tales of the Crossroads series. I don't really like doing it for the views or the money because, at least from what I'm seeing, it's not like the best idea out there, but I really like doing it. I really do think it's cool to celebrate the World of Warcraft with your stories and not just, not just the stories that we all know and love, like the stories of Dives and Leroy Jenkins and what have you. I mean, what about you, right? Anyway, that's going to be hopefully the last that I talk about it during the weeklies. I'm going to try to lean away from that, but again, like if you want to submit, hey, please, I would appreciate it. This week's featured YouTuber is TheRealKent. Like almost all the channels that I feature here, Kent's channel is pretty small. The focus that he has is a little unique. He takes a look at mostly add-ons. Some of these might look familiar, some of these are pretty obscure. The world of WoW add-ons is extremely big, and it takes a little bit of grit in order to like really dive in and look at what's there. I try doing it now and then in some of my add-on videos, and I admit it can get pretty rough. So you can use TheRealKent's channel as at least one more resource to find out what add-ons are good, because at least some other sucker is willing to download them and try them out instead of you, right? In a side note, and in a kind of shameless way to turn it back on me, if you have any cool add-ons that you're using that you think might be worth sharing with the rest of the community, let me know and I'll try to feature those in a future video. I'm trying to get a number of these together so I can, do a nice little dump of, hey, let's check out some of these add-ons. The Battle.net beta client was updated recently to include something freaking amazing. A bunch of social tools were added to enhance the Blizzard and World of Warcraft experience, and well, I guess the biggest thing is that you can now appear offline to erase the entire social experience. Yes! It doesn't take much either. You just go into your client, click on your profile, go ahead and appear offline, verify that you want to actually do that, and you're done. Now, of course, all this is still in testing, none of this is finalized, and there are limitations to appearing offline. Like, for example, anyone who's in your guild, well, they can still see you online. But anyone who's trying to find you from the outside, like if they're in a different game, or if you're not in the same guild, or in the immediate party, you will not see them online. There's still things I want to check out, like if this works only within the Battle.net space, period. So, like, if I'm, can someone still search for me by, doing a /who on me? I'm not sure, I haven't found that out yet. They also added a social tab where you can create your own channel, kind of like a Discord channel, but not as good, I gotta say. The capabilities of this are pretty limited so far. Within this little social group tab sort of setting, you can't do things like post direct pictures, you can't embed pictures right into the client. At least so far, you can't use bots to manage things. So you can pretty much call this basic. If you already have like your own Discord or other social channel, then you probably don't need something like this. But if you want to get started with something and you don't need a whole lot of capability, you just want a place for a couple people to gather, this is a good spot. Lastly, you can make a cute little profile for yourself. Again, right now it's pretty bare bones and basic. You could just talk about like who you are, what games that you happen to play, add a bunch of links to all your social media accounts, and you can change your profile picture, although you can only change it into like Blizzard related stuff that they have preset for you. Not the end of the world, but at least as a little bit of feedback, Blizzard, it'd be awesome if I can set up like my character profile as my avatar. I mean, it's already done in our forums, why can't we just do it here in this profile too, right? Anyway, I think this is multiple steps in the right direction for Blizzard when it comes to improving the social experience. It is pretty bare bones, and there currently are solutions that already exist in the form of like Discord again, for example. But I ain't mad either. I mean, cross my fingers, right? But for all I know, Discord might blow up one day, but at least I can kind of sort of count on Blizzard's little system to continue existing. I mean, it's not as crap as like the old version of like their voice chat program. So I'm counting on continued improvements and enhancements to the system. Like I said earlier, this is the beta version. So if you want to try this out, just go into your Battle.net client, go into your settings, and you can opt to download the beta version. And of course, if you're not happy with it, you can switch it back to the regular client too. Just the other day, your bestest friends ever, Ion Hazzikostas and Josh Allen, aka Lore, conducted another developer Q&A. And then after that, I made a better version of it that you can watch over here. Of course, you folks want to know what's the important stuff that came out of the Q&A, so I'll just summarize it for you. I'm reading all this, by the way, so far, there's no new legendary catch-up method that is planned for the new patch, 7.3.2. There's going to be a number of small balance changes in the 7.3.2 patch, but it's not going to be like the 0.5 patches where you see major class overhauls. That's pretty much done, and any balance changes that are related to the Antorus raid are going to come a little bit after the raid launches. The Flightmaster Whistle upgrade, which you get from the Argusian Reach, is going to be account-wide, and if it hasn't been hotfixed already, it's going to be done very, very soon. You will need to have your followers at an item level of 950 if you want them to participate in the Antorus related missions that are going to come out when the Antorus raid launches. And that's pretty much all the good stuff that came out of it. I mean, the rest of it was just a bunch of like the same questions that people ask, and in clarifying certain statements or defending certain statements or design decisions that the team made. What's interesting is that Ion addressed something that was data mined for the most recent PTR build. And I'm so glad I didn't report on this, because then I would have felt like, well, I would have felt like a clickbaiting idiot. But I'll at least talk about this now with things having been clarified. This recent PTR build introduced a number of legendary token-like things, where if you use them, you get a legendary based on the class identifier that's attached to it. The other thing is that these are account-bound items, which makes things really weird. It's like, wow, I can possibly take this token and trade it to like my Lobby character? Okay, but here's the big caveat though. Ion addressed just how it is these items are earned, and he kind of braced himself for like the rage, you know, as if there were hands that were going to just reach out of the screen and start choking him and Lore. I kind of felt bad. But the only way to obtain these items is, again, it's a very, very random, you know, legendary rare kind of drop, and the condition to even make them drop is that you must have every legendary for your class. All of them. So for my Protection Paladin, I need 3 specs worth of legendaries. For my Code Tank, he needs like 4 specs worth of legendaries. And for one of my guys who used to roll a Demon Hunter, he only needs 2 specs worth of legendaries. So just as Ion said, it's a very first world problem. It's only really for those kinds of folks who had completed their entire collection, and it's like, okay, what do I do next? Now with all of that said, it begs the question, do we give a shit? Hell no. This is not something that we worry about like at all. The problems or, you know, the challenges of obtaining legendary gear persist, and they're pretty much the same thing. Although Ion did concede and say, hey, you know, this is something that we have noticed, obviously. So don't look at whatever's been data mined on PTR or whatever you're seeing. Don't take that as stone. I mean, we still have a little under 2 months before this patch comes out. So the hopes and prayers among some of you, I'm sure, are, oh God, please give us some sort of system. Now, if we have an idea for Blizzard, I suggest you present it. It's going to take a little bit more than just bitching to get what you want. I mean, that's part of the conversation, but presenting to them a cool idea would probably help a lot too. Moving on, author Christy Golden is now a full-time employee over at Blizzard Entertainment. Supposedly, she's both a producer and lead artist for the new Diablo/Pokemon expansion that's coming out for Hearthstone. I'm kidding. For those who don't know, like I said, Christy Golden is an author, and she's authored a number of Warcraft related books. The work that she's done on these titles has been largely praised, so the first expectation when we first heard about this back in May when she was taking a temporary job at Blizzard was that, oh, she's going to be, putting her services into whatever's moving forward for the Warcraft story. But I gotta wonder, does it have to be related to Warcraft? I mean, Blizzard is a big company. They do a lot of things. It's not just Warcraft, but they do Diablo and Hearthstone. Well, okay, maybe Hearthstone won't have a story, but maybe it does because of that video that we saw. But she could be taking part in a new Overwatch story. She might introduce a cohesive plot with Heroes of the Storm. She might bring back rock and roll racing. Oh my god. So her becoming a full-time employee at Blizzard could be an extremely big deal that affects not just the Warcraft franchise, but all of Blizzard's franchises. Anyway, I want to wish her the best of success, and that whatever next novel that she does put out for the Warcraft franchise, please don't suck, okay? Anyway, moving on, BlizzCon 2017 is less than 1 month away. Give me the thing. Alright, do the thing. Do it a lot. Yeah. As always, I'm super hyped up about BlizzCon, and some of you, it doesn't resonate with you, and that's totally fine. You'd rather just enjoy the things at home, or you'd rather just kind of read the bullet points and the news of what's going on. But I said this in an earlier stream, but I want to at least kind of reiterate what I had said. Part of the joy of BlizzCon isn't just the news and finding out this stuff. Because when you're at the opening ceremony, when you're sitting there surrounded by like thousands and thousands of other Blizzard fans, World of Warcraft fans, StarCraft, Diablo, Hearthstone, Overwatch, and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, I can't forget Heroes of the Storm. Oh, now I feel like a jerk. Anyway, when you're surrounded by all these fans and you're hearing the person on stage do the call out, when they're calling out, for the Horde and all that, and you're seeing like a sea of people around you just jump off of their seats and, go for the Horde and that sort of thing. Or when you're listening to some of these announcements, you're seeing like the initial opening video of whatever the heck new expansion that WoW's coming out with, and you can just feel like the energy that's coming from all these people around you, and the cheers and the jeers and all that. It gives you this chilling feeling. It reminds you that you're not alone. You have all these people around you that are loving and enjoying these games all around you. It's made to help you feel comfortable about the kind of person that you are and the kind of games and the kind of things that you like doing. That's a huge part of being part of the BlizzCon experience that you just can't experience looking at bullet points on a forum or even watching it from the virtual ticket, which I do recommend picking up if you want to get a taste of what it's like. On top of that though, there's Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. Oh my god, these guys need to like cut me a check or something because I keep talking about them. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, so I'm getting kind of giddy. I'm like looking at this schedule. We haven't seen the map yet. I really want to see the map. And okay, I'm just going to be talking about the schedule for a little bit. So if you want to skip ahead by a few minutes, please go ahead. So the opening ceremony goes on from 11 to 12. And then after that, only about half an hour later, we see the What's Next panel for the World of Warcraft, which, we already know that there's going to be a new expansion announcement. This further reinforces it. So I'm definitely just going to, I'm going to be stuck in my butt with me and my friends and my wife, and we're just going to be waiting for this panel to start. I'm kind of interested in checking out Allcraft Live, which is going to be the live version of a podcast as hosted by Hodded, Asmongold, Richard Campbell, and whoever the heck that they happen to capture for their show. Between them, it's just chatting and talking about stuff, and they have some pretty interesting topics. It's one of the few that I actually listen to and watch and what have you. But of course, at the same time, a huge part of BlizzCon has now been all these tournaments that are going on for all of their franchises. And at some point, probably in the evening, we're gonna have chicken and waffles and we're gonna get really drunk. The plan is to have some sort of Blizzard Powcast to go on that night on both Friday and Saturday. I'm probably gonna have to do it from my phone. I think that's the only device that I have capable of doing a live stream, so we'll kind of have to see how that works. Okay, I'm not gonna get too much more into it. I'm just like super excited to go. It's like, I gotta wait another month for this goddamn thing to start, so I can't wait to go. I think it would be really awesome if I can meet, if I can meet some other YouTubers or other big personalities there. Or even weirder is if people recognize me and they'd be like, "Oh my god, you're that guy that does that shitty channel." That's really neat. So it'd be cool to meet people. It'd be really awesome. But let's move on to what is going on at the end of BlizzCon. Blizzard announced that Muse is going to be playing during the closing ceremonies over at this year's BlizzCon. And my first thought was, who's Muse? Now I admit that I am musically inept. It's like, okay, it's not Taylor Swift or Ludacris. I don't know who these people are. After hearing some of their work, I was like, oh, okay, I've definitely heard these people before, I just never knew their name. So I at least am looking forward to checking them out. What I found interesting is that last year, the show that Weird Al Yankovic pulled off was actually very, very good. It happened to be the first show that I actually stayed the whole time to watch. So I'm just going to have to get over the very low energy crowd that typically watches the closing ceremony concert and just try to relax and enjoy the show. There was a new 7.3 build, but there really wasn't a whole lot to cover except the whole legendary item token thing that I had mentioned earlier, so I'm just gonna put that off for next week. The last thing to talk about is the Mythic Dungeon Invitational, or the MDI as I'll attempt to refer it as, and its impact on how this is going to affect the World of Warcraft going forward. And in a nutshell, give me the thing really quick. This is going to be a very, very big deal, in my opinion at least. The MDI itself was flawed. There were certain problems with it. There are certain mechanics that Blizzard had to take care of beforehand, and I'm talking about what's kind of like a borderline exploit that normally wouldn't be a problem, but according to a recent Forbes interview, the use of these creative mechanics might not be like the best idea when it comes to showing it off in a live fashion. It just might not be very broadcast friendly or entertaining. There were bugs, unfortunately ones that no one wants to see in a professional tournament setting, but it did happen and Blizzard did their best to try to make up for it, and fortunately at least in my opinion, it didn't have a huge impact on the overall tournament. It did raise issues of certain class mechanics that are shared among classes, such as like battle reses and things like that, because it led to a meta of, kind of sort of trying to bring as many classes as you can who can possibly have a battle res. I mean, in fact, there were some teams that composed of all battle res capable characters. However, let's not take away from the meta. The overall performance of the players that were participating in the Invitational were astonishing, and this leads me to make this kind of bold statement. Blizzard has very successfully made an esport out of WoW. Not to take anything away from PvP, because direct confrontations like that, those are important too. Having the arenas available is incredibly important because PvP, as much as some of us might want to think otherwise, it is a very important part of the World of Warcraft. However, there's a very big part of the community, the PvE community, that just couldn't really get caught up in that because all we had at the time was world first raiding. When it comes to world-class raiding, it is very high profile. The players that participate in this are extremely skilled and, as we've seen, extremely dedicated. However, the thing with world-class raiding is that when you're competing at that sort of level, you tend to not share your tactics online for everyone to see, because these are mythic raids. It's content that no one else has really seen except for, the 2 or 3 guilds that are at the very top. They're the first ones at the front line. Because of that, it's pretty hard to broadcast something like that. It's pretty hard for a sponsor to look at that and be like, yeah, let's throw our ads on this. I would imagine that even if they did broadcast like live everything that went on in super top end mythic raiding, it would be kind of like football, except that, well, you'd run a play and then you would take like a 10-minute timeout between each play, and that's not super entertaining. The Mythic Dungeon Invitational, though, is a head-to-head competition between 2 competing teams, and they're in, well, maybe not relatively close proximity to each other, but, well, they are in close proximity to each other because we can show both of them live. This is something that fans have wanted ever since challenge mode dungeons were introduced back in Miss Pandaria. It took a while, but now we have it. And now the question is, how is this competitive form of PvE going to affect the rest of us who, well, don't care about it? I think that immediately, because of the footage that we're seeing from the Invitational, we're now seeing the competitive meta being passed down to the rest of us who now get to see it in action. Even more so, it puts the conversation at the forefront. You get more people talking about this meta, you get more people talking about tactics and things that we can do to improve. So I have multiple questions to share, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. One is what I just said earlier. How is the Mythic Dungeon Invitational going to affect dungeon running in the future of WoW? The other one, which might be a little bit more controversial, is that what do you think Blizzard's thoughts are? And I'm not just talking about the design team, I'm talking about marketing, I'm even talking about Big Bag Activision, who's taking a look at how this invitational went. How are they going to treat raiding in the future? Is it going to change at all? Is there going to be some sort of influence or reallocation of resources, knowing that there is more monetization in dungeons than there are raids? It's hard to say because this sort of competitive PvE is still in its early stages. Meanwhile, raiding has existed since before WoW. The way I'm seeing it, and what's got me a little anxious one way or the other, is that, now we have competitive PvE at a smaller level, only 5 people. You don't need like 20 plus a bench. You can have like 5 plus 1, as a backup, in something as accessible as a Mythic Plus dungeon, which you can keep running over and over and over again. In other words, it's more accessible. How will this accessibility affect the top end at PvE? And that's the show. Thank you all for watching, liking, subscribing, and being a part of the conversation. A big thanks goes out to my newest patrons, Gabriel, Aiden, and Hircha. That's very hard, but I appreciate you anyway. I also want to thank Lukos and Rune, or at least I think it was Rune, because he deleted his message. You goofball. I am incredibly humbled and appreciative of those who decided to be a patron or a sponsor or a donator. But there are those of you who help out the best way that you know how, and I very, very much appreciate that too. You folks give me your attention and sometimes your cash money. And every penny goes into making this channel better than it was the day before. Usually. Don't forget jodiesattva, I got a WoW token for you. Don't forget, otherwise I'm going to give it to some other schmuck. So I'm out for the weekend, but of course, stay tuned next week for more videos, more streams, more antics with me and my guild. You all have a good one. Stay safe, stay happy, and as always, stay breezy.